Hey everybody! Welcome back to the Passion and Persistence podcast. I'm your host Elaina Mitchell, and I am so excited to have you here. This podcast experience has been absolutely amazing and eye-opening and literally a dream come true. You know, I was really scared to start this podcast because I think that it's natural for everybody to want to impress people or want to be the best at something or want to have a home run when it comes to their idea or their business or their podcast, right? But I knew in the depths of my souls that sharing positivity, inspiration, love, and light with the world is a huge part of who I am, who I'm meant to be, and a purpose of mine in this world. So creating this podcast meant so much more to me than the amount of views that it would get or streams that it would get on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms. It's a chance for me to touch a soul in the world, even if it's just one soul, to remind that soul, hey, I'm here for you. It's gonna be okay, because with passion and persistence, absolutely anything is possible. And if there's anyone in the world who's gotten through something, it's proof that you can too. So I invite guests onto this podcast to talk about their journey, to figure out how they got through those road bumps and how they persisted to get to where they wanted to be in life, whether it's with their business or their personal life. And this whole experience has been such an eye-opener. It's been inspiring for me to hear all of the guest stories. And it's also been a learning experience for me on the back end of the podcast, creating the content and editing the episodes. I've learned so much. So I'm super thankful. This has been the first season of many to come. And this is actually the season finale of season 1 of the Passion and Persistence podcast. So I invited a dear friend of mine, Chad, onto this episode to talk a little bit about building that strong foundation. I spoke on episode 11 about the importance of outlining your brand properly before you begin to build and market that brand. And so on this episode tonight, we're going to be brushing on that topic a little bit more and talking about identifying your core values. And I'm not gonna spoil any of the conversation for you on the podcast. I'll let you listen in. So without further ado, here is episode 12, the season finale of the Passion and Persistence podcast. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Passion and Persistence podcast. I'm your host, Elaina Mitchell, and today I have a dear friend here to chat a little bit about business, starting it from the ground up, and using your passion and persistence to get to where you deserve to be in life. So Chad is actually a second-generation owner and operator of Natural Resources Organic Pest Control in Miami, Florida. His company's mission is to provide the eco-friendliest pest control services possible, safe for bees, babies, and butterflies. I love that.
Great tagline.
Chad has been working with local municipalities to reduce the amount of chemicals used in public spaces and gives lectures to local gardening clubs to educate people on sustainable gardening practices. Very cool. Chad is also a membership chair for the Entrepreneurs Organization of South Florida Accelerator program, where business owners go to learn how to properly scale their businesses. So without further ado, let's all give Chad a very welcome hello. Hey, Chad.
Hey.
So what are you up to tonight?
Just clocked into my second shift of owning a business where it's like computer stuff and hanging out with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm super happy to have you here. I have actually had the opportunity to witness your growth from the very beginning all the way up till now, where you have all this momentum. Things are just booming for you. So first of all, let's back up a little bit. I want to ask you, what is passion to you?
Passion to me, man, that's loaded. I'm a Pisces. I'm passionate about everything. I mean, passion to me is just finding happiness in things that you really like doing, and having passion should kind of be effortless.
Right.
You know?
So
yeah, go ahead.
What would you say is your passion?
I have a lot of passions. My main passions are, I guess, just having a positive impact in general, whether it be in people, in the environment, and whatever I'm doing. I really love nature and the environment, so I kind of designed my company to help foster that passion by protecting the environment. I love education. I was a secondary biology education major at FAU, so I loved science. That was another thing I was passionate about, was science and educating, and I kind of wanted to fuse that. And I love art and music. Those are like personal passions of mine.
Wow. So what age did you start realizing the things that you were passionate about, or what pushed you to realize those things?
Oh, super young, which thinking about now is really interesting because in middle school, I was always kind of like a trout. I swam against the current. I always did what I wanted to do, even though it wasn't cool. So like I drew a lot. I was into art instead of sports. Like all the other boys growing up were into soccer and football and following sports teams, and I knew nothing about that stuff. So, and I embraced that, even though it was kind of weird because I liked it, and I played classical guitar in 5th and 6th grade and 7th grade, and that wasn't cool. Like, who wanted to talk about that as a kid? So I've always kind of been wired that way, which I like about myself. So yeah.
Would you call yourself a perfectionist, or?
Oh, I used to be. Because I don't know why, really. I just was. I liked controlling a lot of things until I realized how liberating it was to let a lot of things that I didn't really want to control anymore go, which we kind of talked about earlier before, like we started recording, like hiring a VA, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to do everything, but you don't have the bandwidth. So once you learn to accept that, and then once you feel the release of responsibility, letting little things go, changed my life.
Definitely. The
Yeah.
weights are lifted.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned the VA. Let's talk a little bit about building your business from the ground up. You came up with an idea, with a concept. How did this happen? What?
So my parents actually started the company in 1986, and it
Okay.
was a conventional pest control company. And it was my mom, my dad, and a part-time technician that they had hired. And they built the company to help generate a little extra revenue for the family. Both my brother and I went to private school. My parents were both blue collar people, so they just worked a lot, and they needed to supplement the income doing something else other than their day job. So they started that company part time. My brother, actually, I have a brother, older brother. He's 8 years older than me. He jumped into the industry, to the business, when I was still in college. And at that point, he had made a website. It's probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And that's when we started to get a little momentum. So I was at a point where I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in college. I ended up not even graduating. I was almost done. I had maybe 12 credits left. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I decided just not to finish because I didn't care if I had the degree or not. And I went into business with my brother. And at that time, Whole Foods was popping up. Fitness was like really popping up. So we decided, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it in a healthier way, in a safer way. I didn't want to be exposed to the chemicals, nor did my brother. So we started literally mixing essential oils, like using glass vials like alchemists in the back of the trucks and stuff, peppermint and soap and wintergreen oils and all sorts of stuff. Now they make commercially graded, like, combinations of those things already pre-mixed for commercial use, so I can just buy it now. I don't have
Right.
to mess with all that. But that's kind of how my business evolved from something that my parents had started. Going natural wasn't the vision at all for my parents, but my dad was always kind of eco-conscious because he grew up in nature. He grew up in the Everglades and he loved it, so he kind of always wanted to preserve it. And that's kind of where I am now. Now my brother has since exited. He owns a software company, and I'm running the show. My parents are retired. My mom still helps out. She runs some errands and stuff because moms get bored when they have nothing to do.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at.
Wow, that is so, so, so cool. I'm very inspired by
Yeah,
that. It's funny to see, not funny, but it's cool to see the evolution of a family line, of the whole DNA just evolving with you carrying that on. I love it.
yeah,
So, I talked a little bit on my last episode of Passion and Persistence about the setting those foundational bricks to build your business, an empire that you can have around for 10, 20, 30 years. And I think that the misstep that a lot of business owners take, or a lot of entrepreneurs that want to be business owners, is they're not laying those foundational bricks to build upon. So, what would be some of the main foundational bricks that you would recommend somebody outline before they get their business started?
um, I think one thing that's really important when you're building a business for yourself is understanding why you want to do it. So figuring out what your core values are as an individual first. So I came into my business and I felt detached from it for a long time because I didn't know how to relate to it. And it wasn't until I realized that I could design it in my own likeness that I really got passionate about it. And like I have my core values back there, but I wrote down like what I really love, and then I figured out how to mold my company around it,
I love
which
it.
which gives me a lot of energy, because now it's something that's part of like who I am as a person. And yeah, money is cool, and I feel like a lot of people go into business or become entrepreneurs because they're more money driven, but I feel like that's kind of empty, and results may not be what you want. Um, so my core values, which are environmentalism, we're a company that protects the environment, make it easy. Everything that we want to do, we want to make it as simple as possible. If it's complicated or it's hard, we deconstruct it, we figure out why, and we create an easier process. And I'm very efficient that way. Like that's how I like to live personally. Like I like things just to be easy, to be simple, to be intuitive. Education, which is a passion of mine. So my staff, we're constantly training, learning new things, implementing new things in the field, testing stuff. Keeps it interesting. Positive energy is a huge personal one, but it also works in the business as well. So if there are any uncomfortable feelings, or if someone feels a certain way about something that isn't positive, we communicate it right away and we figure out how to turn it into something positive. And that also goes with customers too. Like if a customer is giving us a hard time or there's a lot of negative energy around an account, we try to figure out how to make it a positive experience, or we, we fire our clients sometimes if they're really difficult or if they don't treat my staff right. And customer experience is another one. Like I love great customer service, especially in like restaurants and dining experiences. My friends know me to be like a nitpicker when we're out eating and stuff. So I want my customers to have a great customer experience, good experience. It should be easy. Um, and yeah, so once I figured that out, and then I figured out that I could create my business around all the stuff that I really like, it gave me a lot of energy. And that's like where a lot of the passion came from, because now it's really my business because it's designed around who I am as a person.
Right.
And then my employees buy into it because they know that it's genuine, it's authentic. I'm really about it because it's who I am.
Right. And having those outlined also hold you accountable to sticking to those core values. And it helps you as a business owner to understand how to approach certain circumstances or issues.
100%. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like when I feel like I'm dealing with an issue, any kind of issue, I look at my core values and then I try to figure out, like I usually can solve it just by looking at that. Is whatever going on in line with what my business is, or am I out of integrity with what's going on? And then, those are things that are my pillars. So it helps me a lot just in the day to day.
I love that. And so let's talk about growing a team. You have those core values, you know how to approach problems. Now, when you're building your team, do you make sure that when you're hiring them, that they also can relate or are a reflection of those core values?
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
They have to. And I've made bad hires before. And looking back, like they didn't have some of those things, you know. They maybe environmentalism wasn't really something they cared about at all, and that's not what we are, you know. And maybe sometimes they brought a lot of negative energy to the table and I didn't address it right away. But yeah, I mean, I'm finding myself hiring based on personality a lot right now, because the positive energy is such a big thing. I need people with that kind of personality, because that also ties into the customer experience too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so hiring, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to hire. I'm learning what works best for me in my business. I don't have any VAs. Everyone's in house and everyone reports to an office, and that's part of just like my industry and my culture. So that's where I'm at right now. I just recently hired another technician, awesome personality, super positive, really happy kid. And I mean, I can train anyone to do this, which is part of my model, because I've made everything so easy. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm just putting people in the seats that I need to fill to continue growing.
Definitely. And it's always really exciting to find those key players, those pieces to your puzzle
It's
where you're just
huge.
like, I love you.
It relieves so much stress knowing that you're able to lean on someone to help you get things done and that they're going to be reliable.
And care as much as you may care, right? That's
Yeah.
so rare to
Well,
find.
I don't know if anyone will care as much as you'll care, but just getting them to buy in to what you're trying to do and be happy about it is like that's, I can't ask for much more than that, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, I just went through a process of getting rid of someone on my team because of the negativity and the unwillingness to learn and grow. I think that's
Yeah, it's interesting because when I've had those kinds of bad apples in the company, it really affects everyone. And you
yes.
may not realize it right away, but humans are intuitive and they notice things and they feel things and they're not always vocal, which is why I drive positive energy in there so much, because if I want to know if someone's feeling bad about anything, and sometimes it's about other employees. So I've created a culture where people tell me right away, like, I didn't like how so and so handled that thing. You know, what can we do to make sure that, you know, that doesn't happen again or whatever? And it helps a lot. It helps a
Definitely.
lot when your people feel comfortable enough communicating, because they know it's part of why we're here.
Right. So during this growth process for you, what roadblocks can you think of that may have made you want to possibly throw in the towel, or you weren't sure which direction to turn?
The biggest one for me was myself. I felt I wasn't really confident in my ability. And it was a lot to do with just the lack of experience. So have you read the book E-Myth?
E-myth, no.
E-Myth, the entrepreneur's myth. It talks about going from a technician to a manager to an owner, kind of, right? So I've been in the pest control industry my whole life as a technician, and I never really had the responsibility of managing stuff, nor did I have the responsibility of running the show. So going from being in the field to managing other people to then being the visionary behind, you know, where it's going to go was intimidating. So I kind of sabotaged myself out of it for a while because I was a little nervous. And at one point, I mean, you have a question here, what was something that was embarrassing? And it wasn't really embarrassing, but I'm embarrassed looking back that at one point I was so scared of putting in the work and doing what I felt like I was capable of doing that I thought about selling the business before I even really jumped in. And I don't know, and that was part of like the learning thing for me, like learning about who I am and what I wanted and what I was capable of, and just growing as a person. I'm glad I didn't sell it because the business is, you know, doing great and it's my livelihood and I really love it now.
Good.
But that was it. I mean, it's human nature to avoid stress. Anything that's stress, we don't want to do it. And I was doing that a lot because I was young. I'm only 30, and I started really running the business probably when I was around 27. And I feel like that's kind of young, especially without any real business experience.
Right.
I'd been an employee waiting tables in high school and in college, and I was an RA in college, but other than that, I had no real business experience, or I was never really employed by a company or a large entity. So that was my biggest roadblock. And it's still like, I still find myself reverting back to the self-sabotage every now and then. Like when my to-do list piles up, it's like, you know, let me just go to the gym for a little bit. And then I get home and it's like, all right, you know, when I should have just been working, you know, I just do other things. I distract myself, but definitely a lot better than I was.
Right. It's all about being aware of yourself. And if you
Yeah.
know that you self-sabotage, then you'll then know how to fix it. You know what
I'm
I'm
so
saying?
aware now. I'm so aware that like I know it right away when I'm avoiding things that I should be doing. And
Definitely.
you
I
know,
feel like we all get there. And I think that what you had said really I can relate to so much is you were used to, you know the field that you were in, you were used to working it, being the employee, but then managing and delegating and the back end of everything can be so intimidating and scary for any new business owner. And I feel like if I had to take a stab in the dark, many business owners probably stop there when they're not sure how to do the back end side, the processes, the foundational work that we were talking about.
I
Because
feel
I
like
know,
some do.
yeah,
And not everyone's cut out for that kind of stuff. Some people like to be the technicians. They like to be the doers. They like, you know, they like the day-to-day stuff, engaging with the customers and all that, and that's fine. And you can still scale that way. You just
yeah,
have to hire the people to do the other stuff, to be the managers, maybe hire even a visionary to help you, you know, grow, or someone in operations to help you execute on things. But yeah, it becomes overwhelming. And then people become complacent because they get to a certain point where they're a little comfortable and they're like, okay, I can chill here. And that's another part of scaling that's kind of hard, is there's like certain tiers where there's like a sweet spot. And then if you want to get to the next tier, it's like, it's really hard, you know? So like fighting through that's tough. And I see people go through it all the time in the entrepreneurs organization I'm in, you know, getting to 1 million and they're all cool. And then the road to 3 million is like a bitch. And then getting to 6 million is like, they're dealing with all sorts of different issues that you know, they weren't really prepared for, but it's cool. And that's part of the journey. And people that are successful are ones that can handle that and execute.
and push
You know?
past that discomfort and the
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
I think that that's so,
And the
so
best ones embrace it. Like they don't even feel the fear. They just go. They just go.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I compare it a lot to lifting weights in a gym. To get to any new level in life, you have to have that weight, that, stress, like you said. So it's really important.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you if you could go back in time, maybe
Mm-hmm.
to like 17-year-old Chad, what would
Yeah.
you tell yourself at 17?
Tell myself about what?
About anything, absolutely anything. If you could
Like
just,
if I could give myself advice,
yes, and say, maybe like grab yourself and shake you and say something, what would it be?
probably to like find more discipline, just in general. I was one of those kids that was kind of gifted as a student. I never had to study. So once school got hard, I was over it instead of like fighting through it. And that trended a lot kind of in my life in general. Like I've tried a lot of different things, and if it didn't come easy enough to me, then I stopped. Like I used to
Right.
paint. I used to paint a lot, and then when some paintings would get too hard, I would just quit on them. You know, I played classical guitar, so I would start a lot of songs, and then there would be that one hard part, and it was too hard for me to get through. So I would just say, okay, forget it, next song. You know, so I think if I could go back, I would tell myself to just really focus and push through, because I know I'm capable of a lot more than what I've accomplished
Right.
just in general. And it has a lot to do with me just fighting through stuff, fighting through the uncomfortable stuff, and focusing and being disciplined.
Definitely. And I think that that is where the persistence is so key. That's why I'm so strongly passionate about passion and persistence together.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to
Another,
have a passion or being intrigued to try something, but once it gets a little tough and you stop, you're never going to get to that next level. And I think that human nature to want to wave the white flag.
The stress avoidance, the fight or flight thing. And I think another important P that a lot of people don't have is patience.
Yes. Patience and persistence, though, go hand in hand. They're literally like the yin and the yang. Like, not the yin and the yang. That's the wrong reference. But you get what I'm saying.
Patience elicits more of like a calm approach to the long road. You know, just be patient, be persistent, but be patient. Like, don't get frustrated if things don't go your way. Just kind of enjoy the journey. And man, that's lacking in our generation. Gary Vee says it all the time. Like, in every single video, it's like, be patient, but he's kind of right. You know, people want results right away, and businesses don't happen overnight. Like,
no, at least the honest ones don't.
And what's interesting now is because social media shows you the successes, and out of nowhere, you're like, oh man, this guy's super loaded. He has all these cars and stuff, or whatever, you know, whoever it is. But you don't see the 8, 10, 15, 20 years that person was doing whatever it took them to get there.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. My parents started the business, and it was doing okay. Like I said, they built it to supplement income for a long time, but man, I've owned it now for 3 or 4 years, and I'm so far from where I want to be. But now realizing that it is an actual journey, and I have a lot to learn, and I have to be patient, but also very focused and persistent. Like, that calms me down a lot.
Definitely.
Knowing that, like, in 10 years from now or in 15 years from now, I'm going to be really comfortable and not thinking like tomorrow I want to drive a McLaren and then be upset because I can't afford one tomorrow. Like, that's the mindset that you kind of have to develop to withstand doing it and to continue doing it.
Absolutely. And we live in a generation of instant gratification, you know, everything's super quick. So it's natural, but it's definitely great to be aware of those things. Well, super cool. Gosh, I'm so excited for you. And I'm really excited to hear about this group that you have going on. So what do you guys do in your South Florida Accelerator program?
So our Entrepreneurs Organization, I feel like this is kind of a plug for it, but it is really cool.
It's okay.
It's a global organization. It's really big. There's chapters in almost every country. And some chapters have like a sub-organization called the Accelerator Program. And the Accelerator Program is designed for business owners that own businesses that do a minimum of $250,000. It's designed to give them the material that they need to implement into their business to kind of accelerate their growth to $1 million, which seems to be like the sweet spot, right? Like, everyone wants to get to $1 million. $1 million sounds cool. 7 figures is awesome, right? So it's kind of it's based off the Gazelle's methodology, which is this book right here, Scaling Up. Let's see, Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And an EO member implemented this stuff and wrote a book called Traction, which I really like, and I recommend this to a lot of people. And Traction pretty much has all the material that you would need to study, learn, and implement into your business in order to build that really solid foundation for scalability. And it has a lot to do with, like, you know, understanding your core values, deconstructing like what you want to accomplish in a year into small bite-sized pieces. We call them rocks, you know, so you have your rocks, quarterly rocks. Understanding hiring, how to put the right people in the right seats, all the foundational stuff. So it's helped me grow my business. My brother went through the program. He graduated in about 2 years, and he's an EO member now, and he's also a coach. So the coaches in the Accelerator program are EO members. So they're all people that own businesses that do over $1 million. And they coach accountability groups, groups from 4 to 6 people. We meet once a month, and we go over this stuff, and we talk about the pains that are going on in our businesses and what we can learn from here that we need to implement to get over that stuff. And it's been great. It's really cool. It's cool having the accountability group, even though no one's going to hold you more accountable than yourself. I mean, if we met once a month and you were like, hey, did you do that thing? And I didn't do it, there's no way for you to make me do it. So at the end of the day, like, you just have to hold yourself accountable for getting it done. But if you're really serious about growing, then you'll do it.
Yeah.
And it works.
And having that group mentality, being able to bounce ideas or problems off somebody is so important.
Yeah, having a sounding board's
Only,
cool.
right?
It's cool, and the way we communicate, giving advice to each other is known as Gestalt. So we always speak from experience. So if you present an issue, and I've had a similar experience, I say, well, when I dealt with this issue in my business, this is what I did, and here was the outcome. So we don't necessarily tell each other what to do, because we're entrepreneurs, right? And we don't really like to be told what to do, but also we don't want to tell someone to do something and then it backfires, and then that's a problem, But business is business. No matter what the industry is or whatever your business is, we all have the same problems. And we have 4 quarterly learning days in the program. There's people, execution, strategy, and cash. And those are the 4 most important things in any business. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. At the end of the day, it's all the same. We all have the same problems. We've all experienced the same things. So
Definitely.
it's been great.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. So I wasn't sure, I haven't checked yet, but did you create social media pages for your business, and how's that working for you if you have?
I have an Instagram. I really like being on it, but I don't really have the time to post as much as I want. We have a Facebook, and it does okay. I want to start recording short videos, like short educational videos on all sorts of stuff, but also that's like a time thing. And I'm at a point right now where I'm training technicians to work in the field so I can remove myself from the field. Mm-hmm. So my plan for 2020 for sure is to kind of remove myself from the field and start working on more of that marketing material that I know is super valuable. Right now, I mean, we're not really doing any outbound sales. Everything's inbound, and it's all generated from Google marketing strategies. So we're okay there, but I still want to offer more value to customers, and I want to create more of a brand for myself, create more credibility for myself in the industry. So that's what I'll be working on.
Very cool. So those are your goals for 2020. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So if anybody that's listening right now may be feeling unsure of themselves, or like they're scared to start their own business, what would you tell
them? Man, just do it. Just start. If you don't start, nothing's going to happen. And that's usually the hardest part, even with anything. Even when I have to start developing something new in my business or implement something new that I've learned, if you start and get version 1 done, it's going to be so much easier to edit that into version 2 of whatever it is. So that's one. And then I think I answered that. I did answer this one. I wrote, be honest with yourself.
Oh.
So know what you're capable of and know what you're not capable of. Some people, they try to bite way more often than what they can chew. And then they end up failing really quick and then becoming discouraged and then not wanting to try anything again.
Right.
And no one knows you better than you know yourself. So I think that's one thing. Self-awareness is huge.
Yeah. Be realistic with your goals, right?
Yeah. Be realistic and really starting is so important. I wrote also literally try to define who you are and what you're about. So the core values thing is important. Like my company core values are pretty close to my personal ones. My personal ones are a little different. They're a little deeper. But I did that. I literally what 4 or 5 things is Chad really about as human? And then once you understand that about yourself and it's written down, you can see it and there's a little explanation there, then you can kind of dig into, is this idea of whatever it is I want to pursue, is it in line with who I am? Period. And if it's not, then it probably won't work out. It may, I don't know, but you have the highest probability of succeeding if whatever it is that you're pursuing is in line with who you are as a person, I think.
I agree.
I wrote, hold yourself accountable, because no one else can. And I love my accountability group, but at the end of the day, it's on me to get my shit done. And if I don't get it done, It doesn't matter how many times whoever tells me to do it, that happens. Like it's just not going to happen if I don't do it. So holding yourself accountable, writing things down helps. If you visualize that stuff and like have a to-do list and you're checking stuff off, not only is it satisfying, but it's a constant reminder that, hey, this stuff has to get done. And if you don't do it, it's not going to get done.
Right.
And then also I wrote down try stuff too. And I wrote, unless you die, failing isn't really that bad.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know. I tried some things and I failed a lot of stuff before I really found myself in my business. And I'm a believer that the more stuff you try, the more likely you are to end up somewhere that you want to be. So just try stuff. Those are, I think, 4 or 5 things that I think would help someone who's lost or hopeless.
That's amazing. I love all of those. I can relate so much to each and every one of them. Well, Chad, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this episode tonight.
This was fun.
Yeah, I learned so much from you, and I know people that are going to listen in are going to learn a lot too and relate to everything that you said. So I appreciate you beyond words, and I hope that you just continue to thrive and grow with your business and even your personal spiritual growth. I think that's super cool. Yeah.
I hope the same for you. And get these books. Hear these books again. If anyone's watching, these books are great if you're starting a business.
Okay.
You promised me before you started the show you're going to get them. So I'm going to check in on you in a week.
Yes, accountability. I'm going to hold myself accountable for that.
They're really great. They're great. They're like the greatest books.
I need them. I need them in my life. Well, thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate you, and I hope to connect with you again soon.
Thanks.
Oh, before we go, if anybody's watching and wants to check out your business, where can they find it at?
My website is naturalresourcesfl.com, and that's my Instagram as well. And if you want to reach out to me, just hit me up on Facebook, Chad Moreschi. I don't know if you got my name, but send me a message. I'm happy to answer questions or give advice on whatever.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Chad. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. I can't believe we just finished an entire season of a podcast that was once just in my head, a dream, a vision that I wanted to share with the world. And I cannot thank all of the guests enough for taking time to share their journey, to share their experience, to share their knowledge with anybody that takes the time to listen into this podcast. Wow, I'm just eternally grateful for you taking the time to tune in to the Passion and Persistence podcast. And I cannot wait to unveil season 2 of the Passion and Persistence podcast with you all. So for season 2, we're changing things up a little bit. The content's going to be a little bit different. The look is even shifting slightly. And our first guest for season 2 is amazing. I'm not going to spill the beans though, but that first episode of season 2 of the Passion and Persistence podcast is dropping January 6th. So make sure you're subscribed. If you haven't already done so, tell your friends and family about this. Share it on your social media platforms. It would mean the world to me, and it could change somebody's life to just remind them that with passion and persistence, literally anything is possible. If you haven't done so yet, check out the merch on our website. It's passionandpersistence.shop. And that's it. Season 1 has officially wrapped. Ta-da-ta-da! Thank you guys so much. I will see you in January. Until then, have an amazing holiday and make a list of all of your goals for 2020, because I know that with passion and persistence, you can make them happen. Bye, guys.